Hey guys, welcome to the Mötley Croc Show. It is 7 o'clock on the dot. I was almost late because I was BSing in the green room. However, I have Marisa Tellez and Brittany Barbieri from WTF, and the Crocodile Research Correlation, I believe, is going to be part of Marissa's speech tonight. We're going to talk about all that stuff they do with crocodiles down there, and I know you guys follow her on her Instagram, and all the other stuff she puts out there is really cool. There's a lot of neat subjects like crocs and cave crocs and monsters and Sasquatch and flying crocs and all kinds of cool crocs. I love it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring everybody in real quick so we can do that. And I will bring on, there is Marisa. What's up?
What up, boo?
And Brittany, what's going on? It's good to see everybody.
Hi.
So we are rolling right now. So it's cool. We got some viewership coming in. It usually takes a little bit and everybody knows they can watch it later. So that's good. I wanted to say you are in California, right? Is that what you said? Or you're in Texas right now? Marisa.
Me, yes. I just flew into Texas today.
That is the coolest thing. That is the coolest thing. That's awesome. So you've got little Maya with you.
Yes, I have the little troublemaker with me. Yes, the little crocodile goddess herself.
I think that's awesome. Like the neatest thing. I think that's the neatest thing. Yeah, so I did want to touch on that stuff too. I was looking, can you start off with that story? I saw something that you posted where you guys found a really big dead crocodile. And like you said, you kept the head, right, for education?
Oh,
I'm into it.
I want to know. When you messaged me earlier about dead crocodile, I was like, what is he talking about? Like,
Thanks.
It is. It has been like the end of 2021 with like wildlife in general in Belize has been so crazy. Like I literally will forget like, oh, we rescued a manatee the other day. Wait, what? When did that happen? Like it literally, it's just boom, 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 boom. It's just been so crazy. So yes, last Tuesday, we are on the City River, which did we go on the City River? I think we took you on the City River, Troy.
I remember being out of some area and we saw like that plankton that was glowing in the water. It was really cool. I wish I had leaves.
Yes, that was it. That was that area. Yeah. So we're going on the City River and we have a lot to cover that night. One, we are going after a 10-foot croc that has been harassing livestock and actually took down a calf about now it's about a year ago, and we named that croc Chupavaca. And
that's kind of cool. It's almost like Chupacabra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Chupavaca has been evading us for about a year now. Granted, still with like COVID and restrictions, we haven't been able to try to catch him as much as we would like. And what's so cool, I mean, this is probably what has drawn me to Belize, is that people there really want to coexist with the wildlife. So here's this farmer that lost thousands of dollars, and he did not announce that a crocodile took down one of his calves. And it was because he's like, I just don't want people to start just killing off the crocs in the river. Like, I wanted to call in some professionals to try to catch this guy. And he's like, I don't want you to kill the croc. Like, I know the croc is just being a croc. And this is a technically a poor farmer. And it's amazing how some of the people think there. And so we've been trying to chase him. And what's so crazy is like, there was a film crew that came down and just to kind of just see what the CRC is doing. And so, the host is kind of talking about like, oh yeah, the CRC, we're out here to, look for this one croc. And I'm at the head of the boat and I was like, croc, it's him. And like the captain like stopped. I literally almost flew into the mangrove, or flew into the vegetation on top of this 10-foot croc that killed a calf. Like I caught myself in the bush and I was just like, oh my God.
That's
and
awesome.
But he was so deep, like trying to get the noose in there was like making all this noise and he split. So I was like, all right. And I had a treble hook and I was like, let's look around. We stayed for a bit. And then I was like, all right, let's just go upriver a little bit more and then give him space. And then maybe when we come back around, we'll see him. And so we start going, we're going like maybe a quarter mile up. And I was like, oh, there's a croc on land. And it's not moving. I was like, is that a dead croc? And as we get closer, all of a sudden this massive croc just like gets himself up. And like all of us were I've never seen such a huge Morlets in my life. Like it was probably
See, I
like
love
11,
that.
like about
I love
11
it.
feet. And it just like
11 feet. Wow.
we're just
For
like,
more
we're
or less,
watching
that's
it
killer.
because it was like, because we thought it was dead. It was like, this croc knew, he's like, dude, I'm so big. You're not going to get me. Like, it was just, so at that point we're like, wait, which is Chupavaca? Was it this croc that we just saw, or was it the one that we saw earlier? And we were just like,
Good, John.
oh my God, head exploded. Oh yeah, sorry, dead croc. Let's rewind. Sorry, I just because Chupavaca was like so awesome.
No, I like that story because
that
that's
is
cool.
a really
11
cool
foot
story.
Morlets, though, you got to understand that, guys. And for those of you listening, I will say hello to everybody. What's up, Michael? How you doing, Dan? Corey, good to see you. Judy, John Brickle, of course. 11 foot Morlets is legendary. And I want to tell you guys something. If Marissa says it's 11 foot, it's 11 foot. You get a lot of people that come on here call and say they got a 14-foot alligator in their backyard and it's 6. I understand that, but this woman works with this stuff every day of her life. And, after a period of time, once you've worked enough with these animals, you can look across and you can tell exactly what it is by looking at it. I know that a lot of you haven't got there yet, but
whether
most
it's
of the
male
time
or
you can.
female.
Yes. I want to touch on that too. Don't let me forget. But I do want to touch on the preorbital rise or mound, how you ever want to call it, on the American croc. That's dimorphism. Yeah. But there are some here in Florida that are over at the croc farm over there. The Registers is a friend of ours, and their females have these humps in their face, which is interesting because if you would catch this by looking at it, you would think male probably. And Flavia and I were talking about that too. But
yeah.
Maybe
Absolutely.
As it gets super, I mean, these animals are big, 400 pounds. I mean, they're big girls. But I wanted to touch on that too. But go ahead, start talking about the dead crocodile we all saw on your thing.
So when we were on City River and we're on the way to like go towards the territory of Chupavaca, that's when the boat captain Lucky, he's like, oh yeah, Marissa, there's that dead croc I forgot to tell you about. And I was like, wait, what? And like we just make this hard left, and then here is this croc. Like you see this broken down dock, which isn't that old. But we've had some pretty heavy rains and storms the last couple weeks. And so I don't know if this dock just collapsed. I don't know if it collapsed on this croc or if this croc had already died and it somehow entangled its head through one of the posts on the dock. But I mean, it was completely white. I mean, there was maggots in it. And like, it was at least dead for a week or so. Like a week, maybe even 10 days. But so anyways, I wanted to obviously go see if there was like any possibility if we could see any gunshot wounds or like an axe to the head, if the teeth were still there, any kind of signs of this animal was killed because of illegal hunting, or if maybe it was killed because out of fear. Or I mean, there's some big animals in this area. I mean, it's very possible we are starting to get into breeding season for the American crocodile. However, it's possible what we're also seeing as Morlets crocodiles are actually also hybrids, and we quite don't know when hybrids are breeding. So, I mean, there's all these different causes. But anyways, I was like, Lucky, pull up to the dock. And the dock is kind of like at this slant. And Troy knows I don't wear shoes in the field. I go barefoot.
That's awesome.
No, I know.
I go
You're
barefoot.
used to it, though. You're used to it.
Yeah. So I
think that's
off.
cool.
That is.
I feel so much more comfortable. I mean, when we went skating a week or two ago, I was like, I'm going to take my shoes off. I just feel so much more connected to everything just being barefoot. So I get off the boat, and because of like how everything was slanted, it was so funny. Like I had to do this like Gollum walk on the dock just to be able to like get towards where this croc was. And the muscles around the head were already falling off. So I was like, someone give me a knife. Like, I want to take the head because someone
all
could
savage.
poach.
Why didn't you video that?
Someone did video it. So on the Instagram, if you there's pictures, but there is a little bit of a video. But the film crew got all of it. The film crew got me walking like Gollum. And then that was the other thing was I had to get a knife, but it was like, I mean, this croc was so nasty. I was like, I need gloves. So actually, if you look at the picture on Instagram, I'm holding a knife in my mouth while I'm putting
God, Navy SEAL style, Dr. Navy SEAL. Marvel. Marissa, hold on one second. One of our friends has a question for you here. Dan has a question.
Okay.
If you can see it, is there a confirmed record size morlets? Like, do you know of or by you?
Yes. The largest morlets ever found was 13 feet in Guatemala.
Wow.
See, 13 feet, Dan. Jade said, hey, Marissa and Troy. There you go, right there. What's up, Jade? It's good to see you here. And thank you, Samantha. I appreciate that. Cool. So 13 feet.
Yes.
13 feet. There you go,
that's-
Dan. 13 feet, bro.
That's awesome.
So that's really cool because imagine if you gollumed and fell right, Marissa, if you fell into that maggot slop.
It was so.
It'd be like a Saw moment.
I have a dry heaving cat video I'll send you later. It's a dry heaving cat.
That's awesome.
I can only imagine. Dry heaving makes me laugh.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that's nuts. I got to tell you, though, when Marissa and I went over that one crocodile over there, it was their heads, morlets, adult morlets, have really wide,
Yeah.
like the African bullfrog looking heads. I mean, I'm really impressed with that. I'm really impressed with morlets. Everybody, let me tell you something. Morlets are in the United States are very easy to acquire, right? So they call it the beginner croc or whatever, which I disagree with that. I don't think it's the beginner croc. It's just easy to get. So, but they're underestimated because they're a big, gorgeous, smart animal that people overlook. That everybody kind of, that's just like the generic crocodile. Why? Because it's the easiest to get. So it seems like the more rare it is to get a crocodile, Marissa, then it makes them better. Like, oh, it's got to be I think a Cuban croc's the coolest. Well, why? Because it's got a little bit of folklore with it. I mean, there's some really amazing crocodiles. Like adult Temistomas are beautiful. They're amazing, dude. And when they're born, just their shape. I mean, if most people don't get to see that, but you know what I'm saying. But so
morlets, they have an attitude in the field. So
purpose hollow.
As Troy knows as well, because he started crying like a little bitch when we were on the kayak. When I jumped out of the kayak to go swim after an American crocodile.
Listen to them spiders in there, man. I will cry every time. You left me in the woods.
Why are you leaving me alone in the dark?
There were these big spiders, Brittany, and I cannot do spiders.
He really,
and she got off, dude. And so she's going off and she's pulling me through all of them. I can't do that stuff. Crocs all day, spiders, I'm dead. I'm just going to die.
Marissa,
I'll drown.
Were you at the front of the kayak pulling it through?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there was this fish. There was this fish molesting her.
Awesome.
While you're here, Marissa, I'm going to show you something real quick. Let me go back to a wider spread. But
we totally have to reenact this old thing.
We will. This is one of my morlets, and you see the color of the skin on this one. Can anybody see it?
Gotta get closer here. My eyesight. Yeah.
Yeah. She's beautiful. Real yellow. Look at that wide skull. This is one of this animal here is just, I mean, beautiful. I had my nephew bring it in because everybody, they just talk. You guys don't understand. This is about the size that was floating around out there, Marissa. Good, 22. This one's about 22 inches right now. So I saw a lot of these, but they're just girthy, big little chubbers. Mm-hmm. Let me show you that chubby. Look at that little chubby right there. It's kind of cool to be able to bring cool crocs on the show. I have Dr. Marisa Tellez and crocodiles on the show at the same time. There's people right now just dying to be me. I'm having too much fun. I don't know how I got so lucky. No, go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
Thank you, Corey. Appreciate that. Yeah, he's really cool. I'll send you some pictures. Goddamn, Marissa, you're fucking badass Jedi Knight and swimming with crocs while being humped by a fish. No, the fish. The story of the fish was molesting her on the boat, and she thought it was me.
In the kayak.
On the kayak. I'm like, she looks back. I'm like, this thing's sitting there. What is that? Because everybody knows me. I'm a molester.
Wait, what was there a fish on the boat? Did it jump in by accident?
It jumped right in Marissa's ass and it went.
I was like, what is Troy doing back there?
Yeah, that's me. Slapping it, dude, on the kayak. Just. It was a weird looking fish too. It kind of looked like a snake head. It was weird. I don't know what it was. What was that fish? What kind of fish are there that fly out of the water like that?
Was it a needlefish or a trumpet fish? I can't remember.
It looked like a gar. I'm assuming it was a needlefish. It had a garb
Okay.
appearance. It had a really long, translucent body, but when it was flipping back and forth, it was like right butt cheek, left butt cheek, right butt. And I'm thinking, this thing is making her mad. And you're like turning around, looking at me all weird. I'm like, listen, man, I don't want that. You're like, oh my God, you just screw it.
I thought he saw something and like how he's hitting me with something. I'm like, really? That's how you're gonna get my attention?
Yeah, no,
Like,
yeah, that's me, the creeper.
Yeah. Grab a fish and hit you with it.
It was a good time though. I just don't do spiders, and I'll tell you what. Our friend Matt was there, and
Oh,
he
I
didn't
hate
care. Those
spiders
things
so
were all
bad.
over him, and that dude's rad, man. And Miriam,
Yeah.
killer. Those were going through spiders like just touch. She's like, look at this. I don't know why I have a problem with them. Like I like them, and I look at them, but I don't want them landing like right here while she's swimming. I'd rather just come in the croc's mouth. I don't care. Let it bite my leg off. I'll put that thing on my neck.
Yeah. I have to agree with that. Spiders are the worst. I don't know.
But she also forgets that I'm
animal in the wild.
We were in these little kayaks, Bumblebee. That's her nickname, by the way. And when she jumped off, the boat goes, because I was like, I'm a lot bigger than I was like, we're sitting now. I'm looking like now the water's going on my butt crack. I'm like, Marissa, come on, man. We're in the middle of the jungle here. There's water jaguars and shit. Go ahead.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead. Have a good time. I want to hear it. That was awesome. It was good.
Maya, come here.
Maya's here.
Can you say hi?
Maya, how you doing? I haven't seen her since she was a little boy. The whole family.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
All the cousins.
Maya.
All the cousins. They're gonna have bath time, so I'm gonna change rooms real quick. But
okay. Bath time. Yeah, we should definitely do that. That's not that kind of show.
Which over here? Hold on. Wait, where am I? Okay, there we go.
In the dark water again with spiders, it looked like.
Oh, God.
Those are the spiders.
Okay, this
get
is
you. Yeah, go ahead. So the big Morlet, you were talking about finding one with the big head, and you cut the head off. You had the knife in your mouth. That's where we left off. You were Dundee.
You were Indiana Jonesing it.
I had the knife in my mouth. I'm doing like a yoga squat after doing some like Gollum walking onto the dock, and I'm just I cut off the head. Luckily, we did have a plastic bag. We took it for educational purposes, but I mean, this thing was just falling apart. So it's really hard to say if this was, a natural cause of death or if this was caused by humans. But I was like trying to drag the carcass as it was just kind of slipping away out of my fingers. Cause it was just like melting. And so just trying to tuck it down into the mangrove. So yeah.
How big is the skull?
So the skull, the skull, we buried it at my place just to kind of clean it up a little bit because we've got great little bugs. So I'll probably take a look in about a week or something just to kind of see like if it's.
Don't bury him. Don't bury him.
That croc was probably about 9.5 feet.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That was an epic night too, because it's like we see that croc. Then we're going after Chupacabra. Then we see that other big guy. And the other two things we wanted to do on the city was try to catch one of our satellite tracking crocs to take off the satellite tracker to obtain more data. And her name's Leia. And Leia's been in this one area, but we also wanted to go ahead and catch babies just to take samples. And so we did not see Leia. But we definitely did catch quite a few of her babies. And so we were able to collect some really great genetic data and just morphological data. And that was really fun too, just because that's like jumping into the water and swimming and catching the hatchlings. And I get an adrenaline rush going into the water to catch crocs. And so literally actively swimming, and you're kind of start swimming aside them, you just grab them by the hand. It's my adrenaline rush.
When they're little, are you going to grab a 10-foot or 11-foot male Morlet like that?
Okay.
Get in the water for it. I'll watch that. I'm going to film underneath.
Can I be there? Because that I've got to see.
I don't know what Dan's talking about. A guy get arrested for humping a dolphin. Where, in Belize?
Or was that SeaWorld?
Not in Belize.
Not in Belize, Dan. I don't know. Dan's asking. I don't know. He didn't specify. Just specify. I know they do that. People jump in the pools all the time in SeaWorld and try to copy dolphins. I don't understand the theory. It's been more than once. A lot of times they won't release those types of things.
Oh, I need my whiskey.
They're pretty crazy.
Many years ago, there was a guy that stayed after hours, jumped in with Telecom.
I remember that. I was diving there at that time, Brittany.
Yeah. I know
he
you
was in the pool, and
he was naked. He wanted to swim naked with the whale.
He lost his naked piece too, Marissa. He lost it. The dolphin or the whale took it off and took it to the bottom.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it really ripped him up. He was just pulling him around by his extremities. You know, whatever, 11,000-pound killer whale to a 200-pound man, you're not going to be able to swing him around by his bird too long before it's going to detach. Like that old song by the Detachable Penis. That's what happened to that dude. It made only part of that made the news.
Whoa. Yeah, only some of the story was released, but in-house at SeaWorld, we all knew what was up.
You can look the story up. It's all talking about it. His pants were ripped off. I mean, the animal just started playing with him, but you have to understand that water's in the 40s, Marissa.
Yeah.
So when they throw him in the water, dude, when you're at 40 degrees and you swim in your underwear, you're done. You're done.
I just don't understand.
I think I freeze to death in 72-degree water. I can't. We had to wear wetsuits. You can't in a pair of shorts in 40-degree water. Oh my God, that's like jumping in a glass of beer. There's no way, dude. That's
crazy.
But nobody swam with Telecom though, so it was like
John said it was the dolphin that got. It was out. John said it was outside the Hard Rock Stadium. It was the only kicker, and then it was the dolphin that got humped. You know, John's always cracking jokes, so just move along with it, guys. Move along. I love him though. God bless him.
That's awesome.
No, so you got the skull, you buried it. You're going to use it for education and stuff. That's really cool. And how big was that croc, do you estimate? I mean, I know it's rotted. What do you think? 9 foot?
It was probably, just by looking at the head, it's about 9.5 feet.
I was thinking about that. You standing on the dock. I was trying to figure that out. I'm like, wow, they bloat, this and that. But they're neat looking crocodiles. More or less are awesome. How many hybrids are you dealing with down there?
So this is where I literally have a journal now where I'm writing everything so I can either bet money or just when I tell people see, I knew this, I could actually go back and see and point see, I actually knew what I was talking about.
Oh, so
7 years ago, just when we're starting, or 6 years ago when we're starting the countrywide survey for Moralettes crocodile, and just going way far inland, going along the coast, and we're still doing some research along the Keys. I just looking at the American crocodiles, or I should say, looking at the crocodiles in the Keys, looking at the crocodiles far inland, and then looking at the crocodiles in the mainland, so in the middle. I was like, there are not many pure Moralettes nor pure American crocodiles left in Belize. I was like, the majority of this country are hybrids. So, I mean, and for us, it's how do we move forward now with conservation management? And this is just only going through morphology, and just really understanding the morphological characteristics of American crocs and Moralettes crocs. And I just kept saying, no, the majority, I would say almost 70% of crocodiles in Belize are hybrids.
Wow.
In the last 3 weeks, we just got the genetics back of all the crocodiles we have. It's probably coming up to about 400 genetic samples. It was fucking right. The only American crocodiles left really in Belize are in the Keys and this one population in southern Belize, and it's very isolated. And then for the pure Moralettes crocodile, there's this one area called Spanish Lookout, which is near the western border in Belize. However, the American crocodile genes are likely going to infiltrate that particular area just because of the connections of rivers. So that means there's only, even just looking at 20 years from now, there's probably only going to be one pure Moralettes crocodile population left in Belize. And that is in Chickable Forest, which is part of the Mesoamerican, part of the Mesoamerican corridor, which is also considered the second largest rainforest after the Amazon. And this place is Chickable Forest is magical. That's where I saw my first tapir, my first fertilants. I've seen jaguar, I've seen ocelot there. It's an amazing, beautiful place. And so that is likely the last, that's going to be the last pure Moralettes crocodile population in Belize. And so, and again, and the genetics is saying it all. So now as we move forward in protecting crocodiles in Belize, it's not necessarily protecting more or less protecting American, but now we're kind of just in a whole just going to encompass all the crocodiles.
What's up,
but when you
Cröc?
think about it,
Man.
yeah, when you think about it, it's now the American crocodile and the Morlet's crocodile are, in a sense, they're both considered critically endangered in Belize if you want to look at the genetic side of everything. And most people wouldn't consider Morlet's crocodiles as critically endangered. But again, now the genetics is saying we don't have that many Morlets left in Belize.
Don't worry, there's enough in America. I'll dump some in there for you. You know, let me say
That's
something
what I heard.
Wow.
Yeah. So what that would be interesting if you could redo some relocations and new bloodlines. You know, a lot of times, like, here's something that's really distinguishing for those of you that don't know, and I don't know if you know this or not, Brittany, you may or may not. If you look at the back strap of a true Morlet's, like here, and I'm not looking at Marissa's, I haven't seen them. They have a straight line. Their scutes are in a straight line, the osteoderms. Every American crocodile, it looks like someone just put clay on their back and slapped them wherever they wanted. So all of their scutes are just scattered. There'll be one sticking out the side. There'll be two in the middle, one on the thing. Like with salties, you'll see hybridized salties. They have a quad nuchal scutes that sit behind the head. They're not on the big saltwater crocs. It's like the squamosal, skin, and then they start. On a lot of crocs, they got 4 quad. There's a lot of that. And, you know, we were talking, not that it wouldn't happen, but they're generally just not there. And so she had a crocodile at your facility. I saw him coming out, and I know people were like, oh, cool, what is that? You could see it had the wide frog head, but just a mixed mattered patch of osteoderms. I'm like, yep, that's one of the hybrids she's pulled out. Because an American croc, those scutes for I would like to find out why that is, to be honest with you. Why they're so scattered. Why is it that they're not in a straight line? What's the reason for that? You know what I mean? Because most of those, like, you know, So, you know, you learn a lot about that, but you can see the mix, and when they're almost in line, you can kind of tell it's hybridized. When they're fully in line, you know, you got a good animal. I've never seen an American with straight scutes. Never.
No.
Never.
Not at all.
Never. All of
Not
it.
at
And
all.
it's like as different as a fingerprint. They'll never be the same. Isn't that weird?
Yep.
That is really cool. That's really cool, actually.
See you, Herbert. How long you take care. You have a good night too, brother. We'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in. That's what I was saying. A lot of that stuff, like with the Morlets, I really like it. Morlets crocodiles are cool, but you can see their faces their eyes look like these little frogs, like Alf. They kind of sit in a little bit, and they got the big wide. They look like one of those mud skippers.
Oh, mud skippers!
Elongate a mud skipper face. It look like a Morlet's poor thing. So tell me something, Marissa, from your medical side with that, or your biology side of that. They're hybridizing. But what was was there ever a time that they hybridized and then went natural again and then hybridized again, kind of figure eighted over the thousands of years? Because Morlet's is native there, right, to Belize. And then, or do you think some were trapped and removed during farming and then they released them before, or when rivers can, why all of a sudden is there so much hybridization, but yet you have 2 species?
So a researcher from Mexico, this is probably going now like 5 years ago. His PhD actually was looking at hybridization throughout the Yucatan and Belize. And he did this kind of backwards trace to understand when hybridization kind of started. And like in reality, Morlets and American crocodiles, like it's a natural phenomenon. They have been hybridizing for thousands and thousands of generations. So it's not like this is a induced due to climate change or humans.
A question for
However,
you, Marissa.
Decline in territory. Not necessarily. So this is something, because I have a PhD student that's even further looking into hybridization of crocodiles in Belize. Her name is Helen Song. She's crazy, a good crazy. She's my partner in crime when it comes to karaoke and dancing at the crocodile specialist group meetings. But she's doing some amazing work with her PhD. And one thing that we have discussed is hybridization likely has increased between both species, probably in the last century. And that was due to overhunting. And so, the population of Morlets and American crocodiles almost went extinct in Belize. I mean, pretty much all over the world, right? And so now you just have a few individuals that are hanging out. And, you might have an American crocodile female and a Morlet's crocodile male, and they can't find a mate of their species, and they're just like, whatever, let's just get it on. And so that kind of started to cause more of an increase of hybridization. So it's more of just this very low population of both more Latin American crocodiles, and them not being able to find others of their same species, but they just still find a crocodile and they're just mating. And so that's what's caused the increase of hybridization that we're seeing today.
I mean, we're seeing a lot of that. I guess I see that a lot when he asked earlier. He had talked about the Rhombopher. There was a little bit up a little bit further here. He said, don't the acutus and the Rhombopher hybridize? Yeah. They absolutely do. And that's natural. Yeah. And I don't know of many, but I do know of one where they found a Cuban croc on our beach in South Florida. So that was oh,
wow.
That was an interesting thing. So let me ask a question. Let me go to Brittany for a minute because she's like a ufologist. So I'm going to touch on something. So crocodiles are different from across the world. But if you look at the Egypt, okay, there's 2 crocodiles over on that side of the world. That's big. You've got the Niloticus and the Sucus. Okay. So, question: they made one of them was a god.
Yes.
Not just there are some in other countries now where they completely worship them, like little 3-year-olds ride crocodiles around, pee on them, everything. Like I've seen it all. So I watched this whole documentary, and this little kid was peeing on the crocodile's foot, and then he climbed on it, and rode it into the water. That's kind of like our little white trash kids here peeing on the truck tire and then getting it taken off. I guess it's the same thing. But what I was going to say was, why did they make that Egyptian god? He had that big crocodile head. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
What do you think that is? Do you think they were really interested in him? Do you think maybe they were brought from another planet?
I don't know, because there's so many. That's the toughy one. Right. There's like, when it comes to Egypt and a lot of like the actual hieroglyphs, people can either take it for what it is or what the Egyptians believe that it's saying, or you have the ancient astronaut theorists that believe that there was aliens coming in and doing different breeding and manipulation and things like that. But you could also take it a step further where some of the theories talk about reptilian races, right? So is it possible that this crocodile god could have been part of the reptilian races that were also coming down and being part of different things? Or is it just a representation of who he was as a god? So like you have to look at like the Egyptian hieroglyphs and reading it as they wrote it, or you can go deeper with the conspiracy theories and take it in 5 different routes.
I just was curious about that because they're very. Is it? If you spend a lot of time around big animals, I mean real big animals. Not everybody. I know Marisa has, but not everybody's got to be around really big animals.
Yeah,
they project an aura that is extremely powerful. I mean, you have to understand that they can kill you if they want to. A lot of people think they're stupid.
Right.
They just have no reason to kill you.
I know.
It won't benefit them, so they won't do it.
But I think that goes with every animal, though. People always just assume that animal's stupid, you know? And it's like, they're underestimated because, like, we've had this discussion before, Troy, and I know Marissa's going to be like, hell yeah, that's true. And Troy and I have always talked about this and combated this with people, is they always say, well, they have such a small brain. But the thing is, they use their entire brain, right? We don't. We have a big brain. We don't have any brain fat. We use right.
And something towards that, because I bring this up. I bring this up in our community outreach and educational presentations is, so I did my PhD at UCLA, which also has a fantastic neurology department and all that. Like, it's one of the best in the world. Well, I went and spoke with some people because I wanted to know what do we know? What causes intelligence? Mm-hmm. And that is when you have some of the experts in the world saying, to this day, we still do not know what, creates or contributes to intelligence. We know it's not the size of the brain. Size of the brain has nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with neuron connections, because bees have more neuron connections than we do. So technically they should be smarter than us if we go with that theory. It's not the amount of gray matter. It's not the amount of white matter. We, to this day, still do not know what actually contributes to intelligence. So that whole idea of small brain,
versus big brain. Yep.
Throw it out the door, because we know that has nothing to do with intelligence.
I'm so glad you said that too. That's awesome. Marissa, I'm going to stop real quick because I have 2 things. One, Joseph said he worships crocodiles. I do too. Now, that's a good one.
So
Craig Warren said, what are the size of hybrids? So you're dealing with them specifically. What are you finding in ranges? Thanks for that, Craig. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's a great question. And in all honesty, that's something that we're still kind of looking at, because we've just been catching just a range of sizes. And it really wasn't until recently that we just got the genetic information that we can say, yes, this was actually a hybrid, even though we marked it through just from what we were observing through the morphological characteristics. So that is something I am hoping in the beginning of this year that my team and I can start comparing the morphological characteristics to the hybrids and then like size and all that. To actually then determine what is the average size of a hybrid from what we know in farms. When they hybridize two different crocodilian species, they technically get bigger than the parental species. So it's possible. I mean, the largest American crocodile that I have seen in Belize is 14 feet. And he's actually in the Placencia Lagoon, which is southern where I'm at.
I want to find him. I want to go find him.
So he's our Loch Ness. So this is one thing that I've done to try to also just create excitement about our local crocodiles. I have created Charlie to be Placencia Lagoon's Loch Ness, and it's very much like, oh my God, everyone, Charlie's out! Like go to the lagoon side, get your cameras. Or who's seen Charlie today? Pre-COVID, some of the bars that were in his territory, I try to create some type of like, if you see Charlie, you get a free shot kind of thing. And like, or there's a donation that goes to the CRC, like just to kind of get people excited about him. But so American crocodiles, 14 feet, Morlet's crocodiles in Belize, 10, 11. So I don't know, maybe these hybrids can get as big as 16. We just don't know yet. And so that's something that we have to look into.
That is really fascinating.
Joe said, am I still invited to come out to Belize for research? Sorry, I'm high as fuck and I am packing. And then I have another question for Craig. So he's still invited, right?
Yes. Whenever. But that's ready.
So Craig asks again, how does it affect the number of offspring? Do you know anything about that? I'm sure you do.
So
I even asked that question.
So again, we're still like looking into all this, but we do know they have highly viable offspring, and one of the researchers that started to like kind of look into hybridization in the 1990s, if I remember correctly from one of his reports, he was saying that the eggs of hybrids were larger than the parental species, and I believe they did produce at least like 5 to 10 more eggs. So like female hybrids were producing 5 to 10 more eggs than either of the parental species. Interesting.
So that means, so it's kind of like, wow, preservation of an animal means people go, oh, it's junk. It's a junk animal. You hear that a lot. I think that's a terrible thing to say. Brittany.
I mean, we could be seeing evolution right now. That's the thing.
That's what I think is
we
awesome.
are seeing the evolution of a new species. Obviously, we're not going to see this new species in our lifetime. We are a nanosecond in the geological time scale.
That's so true.
So millions of years from now, like if we got in the time machine in Belize, there's going to be this new species. And like the scientists at that point, they're like, oh yeah, it evolved from the American Morlet's crocodile. I mean, that's pretty much what's happening with Rhombifer and Acutus in Cuba right now. Now, here's something like, because you were talking about it earlier and I got super excited.
But then
we went to another topic. So I was in Dominican Republic this past June to do work there with the American crocodile. And I was talking to the curator at the museum in Santo Domingo, and he was showing me all these Rhombifer skulls. And I was like, where are these from? He's like, they're from caves in Dominican Republic. So they actually know Rhombifer used to be in Dominican Republic.
Wow.
And then they've also found Rhombifer skulls in Bahamas, and there was another Caribbean island. So Rhombifer actually was not just found in Cuba, it was found elsewhere. So long story short, as we started talking, it's possible that that Acutus was the superior competitor and competed Rhombifer out. And so now Rhombifer is only left at Cuba. So this whole idea of like, oh my gosh, hybridization, again, we may just be seeing the superior competitor taking out, in a sense, a weaker species. But in our eye, we're just like, oh no, hybridization, conservation, but like, this is just nature and this is just evolution. And we're kind of also seeing that in Belize right now with Morlets and American, because we're finding American crocodiles going further inland. Yes, that is possible that it's because they're losing habitat along the coast and the Keys, their primary habitat, but Acutus is slowly taking over. And so this whole idea of hybridization, it's more like the American crocodiles, like, you know, in a sense, taking the genes of the other species, but overall they are the superior competitor, superior species, and they're the winners at the end of the day.
Like the United States. I got you. So
Flavio comes in, Cayman Islands. Yes, thank you,
Flavio
Flavio.
Morrissey. I don't know who that is, but he just popped in and stuff. It looks like a little
Just
girl in the logo. I can't tell.
Guy.
That's really wonderful. Acutis used to be in the Bahamas. Yes, I think, right? Then they used to be in the Bahamas.
Guy.
And then Craig
And
Warren
Romper,
said,
yeah.
agreed, new species. Now, let me ask you this, Marissa. Here's a neat question. Well, Brittany, I know you got to go in a second. So
Yes.
Brittany's going on to another show because she does podcasts all the time. So we're not as famous as her. But
whatever.
I'll touch on another question for you, Marissa. But they talk about in the UFO, you're going to talk about UFO stuff and all that. What about what's crazy? But I love twisting the show up because you have a reptilian race. They say reptilian. Do you think they were more related to crocodiles or iguanas? I think crocs because people like steak.
I honestly think crocs. And the funny thing is, like, I saw the thing pop up at the bottom, which a lot of people, you know, unless you're deep in the research, you don't really follow the line, right? But there is a line of interest between the Mayans and Egypt because they have their own types of pyramids in both. And they both have different types of reptilian-like gods, right? So we know that we have the serpent god in the Mayan temples. We also know we have a crocodile god. Yeah. Exactly. Yep. And then there's also, I think it's called like CPAC, or I don't know if it's pronounced correctly, but that's the other crocodile god that they have. And they have all these other type of reptilian gods. And when you start putting the pieces together and you start studying, because I studied a lot of like Egypt and everything like that and all the hieroglyphs, because I found them to be quite compelling with some of the information. I always felt like, as a ufologist, I always felt like, oh, it was like the aliens were there and they were like, all right, you're just messing this whole thing up. We'll be back later. They came back. We're still messing stuff up. And they just are like, whatever, we're done teaching you stuff. And so like, you see a lot of the same patterns in all these different areas and areas where there would have been no communication between both. And yet the styles and the way that they build even their pyramid layout, even in the Mayans, it matches celestial, right? It matches the stars, it matches the galaxy and the pattern of certain star patterns like we had in Egypt. And a lot of the gods look exactly the same. So what's the connection of both? Nobody really knows. And nobody knows how they have the same type of gods with similar names, with a similar type of warrior status as they do in Egypt, but it's real and it exists. But as far as the reptilian question, I don't see them as lizards at all. I've always seen them more like a crocodilian or an alligator or type of race being like that, and not just some little weird lizard-based creatures. Like I've never seen it like that.
Well, I just, because if you put an iguana and a crocodile that are the same size, the crocodile's 10 times smarter all day long. So what I was going to say, there's two things.
Wait, can I add on to that?
Yeah, add it. I love it.
Yeah. So, because like part of me, so I am not one of those scientists that's just like, when I'm hearing folklore from the indigenous people, I'm just like, oh my gosh. And part of that is maybe because I am indigenous and there's like some basis to that. And so like, I really like to listen and hear because there is facts behind some of these oral stories and behind some of this folklore. So speaking with some people in this particular region, and then again, when I was back in Dominican Republic, and I'm not sure if you've heard about this, or you probably have, Britt, but when the city of Atlantis is supposed to be somewhere near Dominican Republic especially because of that stone Larimar. And so one thing, again, just putting some pieces together with some of the Mayan elders and leaders I have met over here over the last decade or whatever. And just, again, speaking with other indigenous people or just those that have the roots. It's very interesting because something that I've gathered that's very similar is that, well, there was a place where they all gathered and it dispersed. So in a sense, there was this city of Atlantis, and then either people went to Egypt or people went to to Central America, to the Maya, or, again, down to South America. So it was like there was this center place. And so that's where you kind of see these similarities. But this gathering of knowledge came from some other, in a sense, the gods. Gods, aliens. I don't know. And so that's
that to them, it's a god, right?
It's still a god, they're not on this planet, so it's still considered a god.
And that's the cool thing about cross.
That's really cool.
You can intertile that. So I want to. Here's what I want to get back to Marissa on too. One, first of all, the Egyptians kept crocodiles as pets. Okay, and I was fortunate to go to one of the museums up here, and the king was in his throne, and they exhumed everything, dude, and all 21 of his crocodiles were with him, fully. They were 11,000 years old, and they were the Sukas. Extinct or whatever. They look no different. The skeletal structure is no different than the ones that look like today. It's no evolutionary changes at all, for one. That's cool. One of them was even pregnant. And when they wrapped her with the babies, not pregnant. They wrapped her up with her babies. And all of her babies were on her side. Like they were all wrapped, mummified, alive with her. And they all look like these little, it's the coolest shit ever, first of all. I think of hurricanes as a kid, right? And I've seen Cuba get just absolutely fucking destroyed with hurricanes before. And when I tell people, they look at me like I'm crazy. Like, no, you're wrong. That's not true. Saltwater crocodiles only live in Australia, which that's not true either. So I say American crocodiles are really a true salty, if you think about it. They can tolerate salt like you wouldn't believe. I don't think rhombifers do that good with that. Now, if you don't know anything about the Galapagos, exactly. So think about how isolated they were, right? The big crocs, the Americans like, see you later, motherfucker. They can't leave. Fuck them. We got them right here. But at the end of the day, if you take that further, you think about the people that were smuggling Galapagos tortoises off the Galapagos. The ones they didn't get to were the ones that were way up in the volcanic because they didn't know they were there and no one could get over that wall. But what if it was just American crocs in Cuba and they were smuggling those crocodiles in for meat and food and they just got released there or somebody wanted to farm them? Because if they were from all those different areas, there's nothing stating that they could have been brought there and dropped off and started a population, which is why the only place they're found now is there. You know, it could be a food thing, a pirate ship thing. You know, alligators and crocs can live a long time without food and water on a boat too. Mm-hmm. Think about that. People eat them. So I wonder if they were brought there, Marisa. That's my question to you. Is it possible that the rhombifer was brought as a food source and farmed there maybe, and then because they depleted some of the natural crocs or scared them further out into the, I mean.
You mean in Cuba?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about in Cuba, the rhombifers. Could they have been brought into Cuba from the other areas that you were just talking about? Or do you think they could have naturally just occurred there? It's just weird that they don't occur anywhere else right now, but just there, you know? It's just weird.
She vanished.
Uh-oh, we lost her. She'll come back in. She'll come back in. Yeah, if I said something else or whatever, but yeah, it was Cuba. So what if they were brought in from other countries as a form of food?
That could be. I think that's really interesting. I liked where you were going with that because I started thinking in my head, oh, she's back.
My phone got an Amber Alert and I went to turn it off and I accidentally just said goodbye.
That's all right. Yeah, I knew you'd pop back in. So
now I actually have to go.
That's all right, B. Well, we appreciate you. Go enjoy your next segment. I'll bop you out of here and go do your thing and we'll see you soon. Thanks for coming in, Bumblebee.
Bye, Marissa. Bye, Troy. See you guys later. Bye.
See ya.
Okay, so
could it have been smuggled? That's my question. Yeah, could they have been brought? Joseph said, "Fucking ghost again." I'm telling you, it happens to all of us on here.
So, in regards, I mean, that's a great question, and that's something where I don't think people have really looked into is in regards of the Tayanos, which were the Carib Indians back in the day. Was rhombifer only found in this one area, and the Tayanos brought rhombifer to Cuba? I mean, maybe someone has already looked into that. I don't know.
I don't either. It's always been a question of mine. Because Americans, they get around. On their own.
No. I know, but like rhombifer. I mean, honestly, that's a great question. I can ask the Cubans if there's any records with the Tayanos and the Cuban crocodiles going back.
Yeah, we're talking. Yeah, you probably never find any records of that.
And
as
so
far back as I was thinking.
Like that's, I mean, because like for me, in regards of like finding information about more or less crocodiles, like there's some fantastic Mayan stories, like oral stories, as well as the pictographs. So it's like we know like the more or less, and as well as the American crocodile. I mean, they've been there for thousands and thousands of years, but I'm not quite sure about rhombifer in Cuba because I mean, what if the Tayanos just brought him over from, let's say, Dominican Republic in the last 2,000 years? Maybe, I don't know. Like that's a great question to ask. I can ask the Cubans if there's any records. That would be a really
neat thing to do. I mean, and you heard it here, guys. That's something we want to know. So if you guys hear it somewhere else and someone knows, please tell me or send it to me or whatever. But what I was going to say was, like, if you think about Puerto Rico, I'm sure there's American crocs in Puerto Rico. What's interesting is I know that they've got populations of the Cuban rock iguanas now because, Cyclura, because of, transporting and bringing over. So there's a larger population. Somebody was reading it before and telling me something about there was a larger population of Cyclura now on the Puerto Rican island than there is on the Cuban island, which is the Cuban rock because of, depletion, whatever. So there's no rhombifers in Puerto Rico.
And they have not found, and that's something I know, like finding the rhombifer skulls in Dominican, and like, I mean, these are fossil. Like this is, I think
That's
the
why
one
I'm
they found,
saying
Dominican Republic is like, poof, like more than 10,000 years. So rhombifer was hanging on in Dominican Republic, most likely Haiti, right? Just Hispaniola, Bahamas, Cayman Islands. Obviously, I think, and I mean, we know that they're in Cuba. I'm sure that they've have found some type of, I would think they have found fossils in Cuba, but it is weird how we're not finding it elsewhere in the Caribbean, nor Acutus. But like we are kind of guessing that Acutus came from South America mainland. So, but you don't see them today. Like the Puerto Ricans I know, like they're like, no, we have Cayman, which someone brought, and now it's like, you know, rat infestation almost. That's how they see the Cayman. They see Acutus ever so often. Now it could be just because there's not great habitat for Acutus in Puerto Rico anymore. And then some of those other islands, because I've been to some of the other smaller islands, and it's just like there's just no way an American crocodile is going to find a nice beach to nest or to lay. There's just it's too developed. There's too many people. There's no way for that animal to hide and to have a safe place.
Yeah, that's true, John. So there's patas monkeys loose in Puerto Rico that the Spanish originally let go on the nearby island to hunt later for food. Unless there's fossil evidence, who knows how many species they were to trade or into the trade routes. That's true. And that's why I was saying that, because, you know, I can even take it deeper. I can go into behavior. And everybody talks about Cuban crocodiles being really fucking crazy and snappy. But they live in these condensed populations there, right? All the food is consumed. They're opportunistic. We spoke, everybody's heard of Terry Cullen. Like him or hate him, he has some very good information. And he had talked about the reasons that the Cubans, the studies that he was doing, the reasons that the Cubans were acting that way, which you can confirm with the Cubans, is because rhombifers are opportunistic feeders. Something flies over, something's near them, they're snap, they just go crazy and all try to get food because they're not sparse. They'll live in big groups. You know, everybody says they hunt in packs and stuff because they didn't really have a choice. First of all, if you look about where they are, they're condensed. So,
So quick side note. They found in Dominican Republic, oh my God, like if anyone ever goes to Dominican Republic, go to the museum in Santo Domingo, ask for Christian Martin. Oh my God. This guy is so intelligent, knows just every fossil, every herpetofauna on Hispaniola, and they ended up excavating a giant sloth, and they found crocodile marks. Now, was that rhombifer or Acutus? They don't know, but definitely, like, I mean, they were saying like it couldn't have just been one. And so that goes into the whole like Cuban crocodile hunting in packs and stuff like that, because back in the day they were taking down these large prey. But and I know in Cuba they had kind of mentioned giant sloths, but also in Dominican Republic, it's really, really awesome. They also found,
here's another thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead. They found one.
They also found Gabriel fossils in Dominican Republic as well.
Oh,
I'm telling you guys, go like follow. They're always constantly, especially because of Christian. They're the museum in Santo Domingo. They're always posting such cool stuff and crocodilian stuff, like on the fossils. It's a great page to follow. Like I really, really like that museum's
I'll
Instagram.
I think that's great. What's it called now? Let put it up. Let's type it in.
Like, oh God, what is it called? It's the Museo. Fuck, I forgot. It's the museum in Santo Domingo.
Okay, I'll find them. We'll find them. It's okay. No, because we all, you know, we're all dumb now. We save everything in the phone and go to it. Something I wouldn't want to tell you, and I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I will stand corrected, Marissa. But I think the most terrestrial crocodiles are Cuban.
Are the Cuban?
They are on the, even mine. They've got these big bulldog legs. They've got legs that look like they're meant for running. They've got like these really dinosaur legs and feet. And you know, some of these crocs, even when they're babies, they're born with these wiry little toothpick arms and little weird fingers that look like frog hair. But then you get this Cuban and he's born like a grunt, like he's weightlifted for 10 years. So, you know, and what's interesting about it, and I got to tell you something, they evolved because from their shoulders to where their head stops, they're a bulldog. They're just a solid.
Yeah.
And I mean, that comes from, you know, evolution of taking big prey. So maybe, I mean, really, it does. Big, large prey.
Absolutely.
Like you think about like Gabriel and the taking fish and have the long skinny for grabbing fish real quick and whipping
Yeah.
their head. And then you've got, crustaceans. Like I have broad snout caimans.
Mm-hmm.
So Kurt and I have a really cool pair of broad snout adults, and their faces are so stubby you could throw a conch in there, it goes because so the neck and the strength of those animals have always impressed me, because it looks like something they would walk around on land for days hunting, grab a big sloth and drag it back. I mean,
yeah,
because they seem to have that stamina. They gallop.
yeah.
So there's just something to them that makes them a little different, and I'd like to know.
And I think
never will. I'll never know.
And that's why it's like so sexy, like the Cuban crocodile. It's like, oh my God. And then, but what's funny is
They are pretty sexy.
I have game camera traps from my colleagues that put game camera traps in the middle of the jungle in Belize to look at jaguar. And you have a freaking large Morlet's crocodile just in the middle of the jungle. I just got one within the last 2 weeks. Again, middle of the jungle. So
No
Morlet's
water.
crocodiles, no water. Like miles away.
Wow, so they move around. That's cool.
So Morlet's crocodiles. And again, this is why it's so important to listen to the indigenous people in the area, or just to get the information from the indigenous cultures, because you look at old Mayan stories. And so this is one of my favorite stories is, again, the crocodiles were seen as a sign of fertility or life, not death. And so as the dry season was coming, if because some of the Maya were a bit nomadic. And so there was maybe a local water hole, but during the dry season, it would dry up. So what they would do is put about a 3 to 4 Morlet's crocodile in that pond. And they would have a warrior that would watch that crocodile 24/7. And when that crocodile got up, the warrior's job was to follow that crocodile, but also to protect it from jaguars and puma, because at that size, that animal could be predated by one of those felines. So anyways, but that warrior would follow that crocodile until that crocodile would go to the next source of water. Then the warrior would go back to the village and bring the village to the new source of water. And so, and looking and hearing these records, I mean, these animals are traversing miles a day. So that's a 3 to 4 footer. But I have game camera traps of at least a 7.5 foot Morlet's crocodile taking a walk in the middle of the jungle, going one way, and the next day he comes back. No,
it'd be really impressive
anywhere.
though, if you were having your whiskey and you were reviewing those pictures, and that motherfucker was walking on 2 legs with a drink. Would that not be some of the greatest footage you have ever seen of a crocodile? He's just strutting through with his grass hat, walking like those New Orleans cartoons where the alligators like dance. He's got a pod gun. He's always jamming out. And that's another thing. Can you imagine if our American crocs are hybridized with alligators here?
I think I was asking Joe Wazalewski if I get like it's 2 different, genre, genus, and all that kind of stuff. But there
have been claims of spectacled caiman in American Mississippiensis.
I mean, and that makes sense though, because
and I believe that they're cousins.
Alligator, I do believe that.
It's almost like crocodiles are a completely different entity than alligators and caimans.
I
know they're all crocodilians or whatever, but it's just interesting that
for me,
they can't hybridize, dude. I mean, you can mix a wolf with a dog. I mean,
yeah, and so like for
coyotes.
me, how I am with science is, it's one of those things like it's probably not very likely, but at the same time, keep your mind open, because we just don't know. Like
I've seen things I thought would have never
tried,
happened. Like redfoot sulcutas, people have done that where they bred their sulcutas with redfoot tortoises and hatched them. I mean, I understand leopards and sulcutas hybridizing. They'll cross over sometimes in the tortoises, So you'll have like whatever they call them, leprechatas or sulpards or whatever they want to say. But when they got the redfoot and the sulcata to crossbreed, that's weird.
Yeah.
To me. Because you look at the gene, that's not supposed to happen at all. So
No.
I guess you have a valid point. I mean, you're probably right. But if an American croc, and I don't know what Joe answered, but an American croc hybridizing with an American alligator, by now, I think do you think we would have seen it, or do you think
feel like we would have known about it? And then the other thing is, like, I'm thinking of like St. Augustine Alligator Farm, Gatorland. There's a couple of places where they put American crocodiles and alligators together. I don't think they've ever had any successful American, hybrid alligator babies. Right. But we also do know captivity affects reproduction. So maybe it's something they won't reproduce in captivity, but within the wild, I don't know. Like that's where just going out, doing your regular research with alligators, with crocodiles, and taking genetic samples. And
well, Joe's out there enough. I mean, he's probably seen. I think he would have seen something, but who knows? I
would think
you never
it would
know
be
what you're
like
looking at sometimes.
It would be a weird looking animal, and so and again, maybe it's just like it's it cannot happen for whatever reason. It's like, okay, cool, but it's just like at the same time captivity, maybe no, but we know that in captivity it does affect reproduction in various ways, and I just like to, for me, keep your mind open until we know the hard answer. That's how I go about it. I
can tell you a lot of reasons. I can tell you a big reason. It's where there are stress levels and diet have a lot to do with reproduction in most reptiles, as with other animals, but we're talking about crocodiles. So
humans.
Let me tell you, a lot of people will see, like my perception, Flavio's perception, and possibly yours of a healthy crocodile isn't a fat, bloated slob that can't even put his back feet down. And, there's a lot of zoos now that have caught on to that, and they've made their crocodiles exercise a little more, and they're making them slim. Because people are like, oh, just see this big croc. He's as big as a car. He's not supposed to look like that. I understand if he's 22 feet and he's real big, but when you have a 10-foot crocodile that's as wide as a VW bug, I'm sorry, you're overfeeding the animal. And they're not made to digest that amount of food all the time. Yes. So in the wild, I guess it's possible for a little bit of love in between a gator. Somebody might get some gator fever. Who knows? But in captivity, Flavia and I are working with some animals right now we want to introduce, and we had to slim them down, bring their sexy back, because you can't put these two big giant animals together. They're like, I'm too tired, fuck it. They're not doing shit. But they're even too tired to argue. So that's a lot of it, guys. Overfeeding a crocodile. Not every I hear it a lot, especially with a lot of staff I work with and young kids. They'll always say, reptile's a reptile, man. It needs this. Well, that's not true. That is not true. Everything's different. Everybody thinks they got to heat the shit out of animals. You don't got to burn them up with heat all the time. Like indigos. No. People kill them because they try to keep them like another snake that needs to be warm. Like that snake lives in a cave all day at about 74 degrees. Comes out in the daytime, early in the morning where it's misty, and we're drinking coffee with a sweatshirt on in Florida. They're enjoying themselves, and they go back. They don't sit out there and burn to death.
Yeah.
We are at the top of the hour, 1 minute and 50 seconds into the top of the hour. I would like you guys to follow Marisa. It's the Crocodile Research Correlation on Instagram, correct?
On Instagram, and then I'm Croc Parasites 13 on Instagram.
Croc Parasites 13 is more humorous. That's where the funny stuff happens. I see a lot of stuff on there. I don't know where it's at, but I think I saw it on, you were doing some capybara moves with a double-edged lightsaber. Fucking great, Marisa. Absolutely great. Absolutely great. It was really good. I'm assuming those were Dan's because he always brings lightsabers. It's his signature to bring lightsabers.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. They looked really, really good. And check her out on there too, because you guys got to keep following her if you don't. I know everybody here came to see her, and that's why you're here. So awesome. So you already know who she is. But stand by, Marisa. Don't hang up. We are glad to have you here. Thanks for checking it out. We're going to carry it on as much as I can get Marisa, and I can pick her brain. I'll bring her on here if you guys want to come check it out. I'm always there. What's up, Jeff? So this is going to upload. It'll be on YouTube and Facebook on all the profiles on the Mötley Croc Show. So go check it out, and you can watch it from beginning to end. She had a lot of great stuff for those of you that came in late. She has some great stuff in the beginning we talked about with crocodiles. And I actually learned some stuff today. So thanks for coming out, guys. We appreciate the support. You have a great week, and we'll